Here we are with another week of the Field of 68 mid-major show. I am Sean Paul, joined by my co-host Brian Burton. Brian, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. Excited to get into another episode. Lots to talk about.
It's been a pretty exciting week. So where should we start? Should we start with the mid-major poll?
Yeah, let's go Cinderella Poll first with the top five. We'll start with the top five, then we'll break it up in the next two tens. So top five, number one, still JMU, undefeated. Princeton slides in number two, who we'll talk about, who's done an amazing job this season, also undefeated. Number three, Sean, I'll let you take it from here. I usually like to pass it off midway.
Hold up, let me get that up real fast. We have at number 3, we have Drake coming at 3, UNCW fresh off a win against Kentucky at number 4, Grand Canyon at number 5, number 6, UNC Greensboro, 7, Liberty, 8, Indiana State, 9, Vermont, 10, Bradley, 11, UC Irvine. Rounding it out of the top 12 is going to be the Evansville Purple Aces. So out of that top 12, what's one that really stands out to you? We can talk about James Madison and Princeton all day, but talk about one of the other ones outside the top two.
Yeah, I think GCU getting their first win over a top 25 opponent was big. Uh, Absolutely amazing environment to be able to watch a game in, let alone play a game in.
I need to go there. It's not that far from me. I gotta go.
It's right down the road from you, man. You
Yeah.
slapped a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, I know, right? I gotta step it up.
We gotta get you on that. But
Yeah, I
big
know.
time support. Love their team. They have a balanced team. They can score. Yeah, obviously Harrison was a player of the game in that game as far as leading in points, but tying Grant Foster's as good of any player there is in the country. Transferred from Kansas at one point in time, and one of the best JUCO players coming out when he came out. Gabe McLaughlin had a double double. I love this team. I love what they're doing. I think GCU is a team that we'll talk about later as well because they have a big matchup this weekend. But everybody in this poll is trying to figure out how can they get on the real top 25 AP poll. And no disrespect to our Cinderella poll, these teams all have a chance to make the dance and make a
Yep.
run. I want to acknowledge them, but GCU has a real chance to, if they can get things going, they could end up being a team that can be in that top 25 AP poll in real life.
Oh, no doubt. And for me, the one I'm going to give some love to here is going to be UNC Wilmington to KO Siddle. Once again, he's just a winner. I mean, look at the last 3 seasons. 2 years
Yep.
ago, 27 wins. Last year, 24. This year, already 6 wins, including a win in Rupp Arena over Kentucky. They're going to win 20 plus games once again this year. And honestly, the past couple of years, they have just been elite offensively, pretty mediocre defensively, or pretty mediocre offensively. This year, it's a lot more evenly split. And a big reason why is because of the production of Trezarian White. He scored 27 points against Kentucky, 10 rebounds. He was the best player on the floor and a Kentucky team that has tons of NBA talent. So 19 points per game for White. He was a JUCO transfer a couple of years ago, and he's only
Collin
gotten
County, shout
better.
out to Collin County, shout out to
Yeah, there
DF.
you go. There you
That's
go. He's only
my roots right there. I got to shout them out.
I felt that coming. He's only gotten better throughout his career. And then you supplement the rest of the talent with some guys who have transferred over the years with Malik Harden Hayes from North Dakota State. You had KJ Jenkins from New Mexico, a great shooter. Donovan Newby came over from Milwaukee last year. And then you still have a Shaquem Phillips. So you have a really strong top four of your or top five in your lineup. I think this UNC Wilmington team has a great chance to win the CAA. Obviously, the College of Charleston, despite a slow start, will have a say with whatever happens there. And Hofstra is going to be right in that mix. Delaware got to win at Xavier. So there's a lot of teams going to be in the mix for the CAA, but those are some ones I wanted to discuss there. And now let's move on to the rest of the Cinderella top 25.
Yeah, so at 14, we got Western Carolina, 15 Yale, 16 Weber State, 17 Long Beach State, 18 McNeese State, 19 Longwood, 20 College of Charleston, 21 La Tech, 22 SFA, 23 UC Santa Barbara, 24 Hofstra, and 25 Hawaii. Sean, which team would you like to highlight in that group?
I mean, the one that I'm going to really touch on here is probably going to be McNeese State because Will Wade is coming back. His suspension is over. The former SEC coach of the year is back. Brandon Chambers did a great job coaching. Well, Will Wade was gone. McNeese State is 8-2. They have a win at UAB. They have a win at BCU. They competed against Louisiana Tech and Western Carolina. Their two losses. It hasn't been an easy schedule. I mean, they scheduled pretty tough. A lot of road games, no like huge high major games, but they play some really good mid major teams and teams just below them conference wise. They do play Michigan a little later here. That's a game they could win. Who knows? But Shahada Wells has been terrific. 19 points per game. Christian Shoemate, 12 points per game and 10 rebounds. And Antavian Collum, 10 points per game. Those are all guys that transferred in at some point in their career. Shoemate been there for a couple of years, transferred from Tulsa. But Shahada Wells is a great example of a guy that was really good at UT Arlington and at the JUCO level before that, transfers to TCU, sat behind Mike Miles and Damian Baugh, and now he's just an absolute stud in the Southland. He is the best player in that conference, and he is going to be a top 10 scorer in the country.
Yeah, and he's also a JUCO product as well. Tyler Junior
Yep.
College, where he was an All-American. And then you got to give a shout out to Vernon Hamilton as well. They split the head coach responsibilities as acting head coach. So he also did a good job with Brandon Chambers. And this team is legit. They're one of the highest rated mid-major teams in the net. The net came out this
and
week.
KenPom.
Yeah, and KenPom as well. They were they're just a legit team. Shahada Wells was my choice for player of the week. But they came out when the net happened. They were 30 in the net. So that says a lot about the respect that they have for this team.
Well, and one more thing real fast. One more thing. I'll tell you part of what makes this team really good if you look deeper at their numbers. Their turnover percentage is only 11%. That's third best in the country, and they shoot 41% from three. Not turning the ball over, and you're making shots. That's going to lead to a lot of wins.
Oh, absolutely. Could not agree more. So many teams to potentially choose from in this group. I would like to shout out College of Charleston. They didn't start out the year great. We talked about them last show, and I won't get too deep into it. But the win over Liberty, I think, in itself says a lot about where this program is working to get back to. They're in the same league with UNCW, so they'll be competing with Hofstra and with so many good teams in that really tough CAA. But just to be able to get that win against Liberty was playing at a level. They were 2 on our poll. Felt like they were on the brink of being ranked in the top 25 themselves and the momentum they were getting. So just to be able to get that win, and they competed against FAU. FAU's obviously been playing at an elite level. Just to be able to have College of Charleston back in the poll, I think was a beautiful thing.
They're shooting the ball a little better now. We saw that in the Field of 68 tip-off. That's what they need to win games. I mean, they're such a high-volume three-point shooting team. If those shots start to fall, they're going to be just as dangerous as they were last year.
Yeah, they definitely got a chance. And a quick, brief shout-out to a new team on the poll, App State, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Longwood has won 8 in a row. They lost their first game. Haven't played the toughest, most challenging schedule yet, but anytime you can win that many in a row, it gives you a great chance to build some momentum before conference play. What about the hot take for Sean Paul this week? What's the hot take on Sean Paul's mind this week?
Yeah, so we're each going to go with the hot take here. I'm going to begin with mine, and I'm going to say by the beginning of the new year, so 2024, we're approaching rapidly. I say that Indiana State will be nationally ranked in the AP top 25. We're talking about a team that's 8-1 right now. They have won all of their games since losing to Alabama on Friday, November 10th. That is 7 in a row. And they play Southern Indiana, Isaiah Swope revenge game. That's when they should win. Then they play Ball State. They play Tennessee State. Those are 3 games they're going to be heavy favorites in. So let's just say nothing crazy happens. They're 11-1. December 30th, after Christmas, right before conference play really kicks off, they play at Michigan State, and Michigan State has not been good so far this year. We can't sugarcoat that. 4-4. They were top 5 in the preseason, but they lost to James Madison, and they've just continued losing. Right now, KenPom projects it as a 7-point favorite for Michigan State. Indiana State, I will say, goes and beats Michigan State, and they will be nationally ranked heading into January 3rd matchup against Evansville to begin conference play fully. I think Indiana State has a great chance to do that. I mean, you have to win those next 3 games. I think they will. And if they beat Michigan State, we're talking about a team that's 12-1 with some pretty solid wins. That is 5 top 150 wins in KenPom at that point. I think that's good enough to get them in the top 25 heading into Missouri Valley Conference play.
Yeah, I like what Indiana State's doing right now. So I'm not mad at the hot take. They do have their work cut out for them to beat the Michigan State team, but they definitely have the offensive firepower to do it.
They're not cold takes, so we gotta do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit hotter take, similar take. Princeton I'm talking about Princeton now. So their top 10 when the net came out. I don't know exactly where they're at tonight. I haven't rechecked, but
I'll
when it
check.
came out, they were number 8. So I'll let Sean do the checking on that. They're
Still top
9
10, I would guess.
9-0. So I'm gonna say they got a big one in St. Joe's this
They're
weekend on
10th.
Sunday. So they're number 10.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say that this team will be in the AP poll as well before it's all said and done.
That
And
can't be the hot take. That I was gonna say that
I'm
can't be
gonna
it.
I'm gonna I'm gonna say the hot take is that they're gonna really have a chance and they're gonna get an at-large bid if they don't win their conference tournament. I'm gonna say
Hold up. Really
Ivy,
have a chance, or they will?
the Ivy League will get 2 bids
Okay.
when Princeton is able to get in the AP top
Okay.
25, and then they may or may not win their conference tournament, but they will be in the NCAA tournament either way. I feel that
Okay.
strongly about this team right now today, and why not? They're playing
I
that
like
kind
it.
of, playing that well of basketball.
I mean, hey, I could definitely see it. They haven't lost yet. Xavier Lee looks like the conference player of the year, 19 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Player profile for the Field of 68 social mid-major social media is coming out soon, so pay attention to that. But Princeton's really good. I mean, and then when you think about the Ivy League, you only get 4 teams in the Ivy League tournament. So if it's Yale, they're going to be pretty good. That's not going to be a huge damaging loss to Princeton's resume. We're talking about a team that's like 28, 29 wins and they lose 1 in the conference tournament. I think that's going to be good enough to at least have the conversation. I think we know how this goes sometimes, looking at UNCG from like 5, 6 years ago, looking at Lipscomb when they had Casey Alexander there still and Garrison
I
Matthews and
think
all that.
Middle Tennessee went through it when
Yeah.
Herman Davis was there.
Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot, and we saw it last year with Charleston. Like this, it's not easy to be in
No.
one of these traditional one bid leagues and get in as an at large. It is difficult, but there is a path to do it if you just continue doing what you're supposed to do and you have a slip up in the conference tournament. I would love to see it. I think it's possible. Princeton's metrics are great, and that is going to bode really well for them getting to that level.
Yeah, they don't have any like signature elite wins, but the fact that they are in, they played a really strong schedule. The net says what it says. They beat Rutgers, they beat Hofstra, they beat Duquesne,
3
they beat
top 100 KenPom wins. Like that's not something to scoff at.
exactly. So, and I think they just have that momentum that they're carrying from their win in the tournament last year, going
Mm-hmm.
as deep as they were able to go. So I love what I've seen. I got a chance to watch them play against Drexel, that 81-70 win, and just a fun team to watch. A team that's yeah, they just have a lot of weapons. I know you're gonna break that down this week in the player profile, but I'm really high on this Princeton team, so I'm riding with them to the end right now.
Hey, I love it. Good pick. That's hot.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go. So next thing, well, let's go to I don't know what I want to go to next. Let's go to another hot
Shout out
team.
a couple. You want to shout out a couple teams that
Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's
weren't
shout out
ranked in the poll?
that did not make the top 25 Cinderella poll. That is.
Yeah, I'll let you kick it off here.
Yeah, I would say let's start with Utah Tech. We'll be brief on that, but we shouted out Beyond Riley
Mm-hmm.
for being a player of the night last night, and they're 2-0 in the league. They were underdog last night for that win, and
9.5 point underdog at that.
And they're new Division One, relatively new Division One. Just changed their name. They were Dixie State,
Mm-hmm.
so they're now Utah Tech, and just not easy to get off to conference starts 2-0. So hope that team can keep it rolling, and they're playing some good basketball. And then I got a couple others, but I'll go Belmont. You mentioned Casey Alexander already. I think they're playing some really good basketball. Also, a team that's definitely on the verge of, if not already going to be in the top 25 with us at some point in time very soon, the way they're playing. And I'll go with those two, and then we'll break Belmont down more after they get in the top 25 because I feel like it's coming the way they're playing. And then you got about 2 or 3 that you want to shout out, so I'll let you roll with the next.
Yeah, the first one I put a tweet about them out the other day after they just dismantled a really good Western Carolina team 97-71. It is going to be the High Point Panthers. They are really close to being undefeated. They lost neutral site OT game against Hofstra 97-92. They lost at Queens by 2 and they lost at Wofford by 1. So I'm not good at math, but that's less than 10 points margin of loss so far, 8 points if my math is correct. High Point, new head coach Alan Huss coming over from Creighton. And this is always a program that's had the resources in the Big South to be a lot better than they've been. And people question, they had the talent. Why can't Tubby Smith get it going? Then he retires his son, Gigi Smith. Gets kind of tossed into a difficult role. Why couldn't he get it going? They had to make a change there to get things on the right track, and they did. Huss has done a terrific job so far, and he really did so using the portal. He lost his two best players. Zach Austin went to Pitt, and Jaden House went to Rhode Island. But he went ahead and brought in Duke Miles from Troy. He was averaging 19 points per game, averaged 14 at Troy last year. Brought in Monty Hamilton from Boston College. From Mississippi State, and he's been really good so far. 6'7" sophomore. He's averaging close to a double per game. Abdullah Thiam, former JUCO product, also great shooter. He stuck around, and then Trey Benham, a transfer from Lipscomb, has been a terrific shooter for this team. So they've just done a great job of attacking the portal, adding to what they already had, and they are a top 63 offense in offensive efficiency. They're a great shooting team. They just have a really tough offense to stop, a lot of weapons. I'm really excited to see this High Point team moving forward. And then the other one I'm going to mention here is going to be, I'll go two more quickly, Youngstown State. Last year, they were a lot different than they are this year, and that's really what I want to touch on. This team was 47th in offensive efficiency. They made the NIT. Dwayne Cohill was an absolute stud. They won the Horizon League regular season title, but they couldn't defend anybody. And that wasn't really a formula to win the Horizon League. This year, I think they're much more well-equipped to win the Horizon League. They're not nearly as good offensively, but they're much better defensively. They're really well-rounded this year, and that's what you saw in the portal.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season, and we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners, and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
Jared Calhoun added Ziggy Reed from Merrimack, a great defensive program, and DJ Burns, who was a mainstay in that Murray State team for a couple of years when they won 30-plus games, won a tournament game. He was a starter for that team. Also added Bryson Langdon from Northern Kentucky, Brett Thompson from, I want to say Tennessee Tech. Is that right? Tennessee Tech. Yep. He was a really good shooter for them. And then you still return Brandon Rush as your go-to scorer to replace a guy like Dwayne Cohill. Jalen Bates from Florida A&M has been a solid transfer. They've just done a really good job of changing their style. I think they saw last year, like, you could be really good with the style they played, but I think in the postseason, not being able to defend anybody is really going to hurt you. They saw that. They made some adjustments, and now they're here. And the third one I'm going to mention is the Southern Illinois Salukis. We've talked about the Missouri Valley nonstop this year because they've been really good as a conference. But Xavier Johnson is leading the country in scoring this year. They lost Marcus Damask, who had 6 points the other day for Illinois. They lost Lance Jones, who's starting for Purdue, and it's allowed Xavier Johnson, the George Mason transfer, to step into a huge role. This is a team that's 6-2 with the win over Oklahoma State. Their only two losses against Indiana State and James Madison. This is a team that's going to have a say in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Yeah, I love all those. Good to be able to give some teams some shout outs and teams that are on the brink of being in the Cinderella top 25 and teams that are just playing good basketball. I didn't mention with Belmont, they have won 5 in a row and really like in that team as they go forward. Let's get into one of the good debates about the Sun Belt Conference, which we don't talk a lot about, but they have a new emerging team that is not new to winning in the Sun Belt, not new to going to the tournament in the Sun Belt, but App State has been on fire. They're a new team in our Cinderella top 20 25. Let's talk about the debate of App State versus
James
James.
Madison.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I want to.
You said you're standing on business saying
Yeah.
you're picking App State to be the favorite over
I
James
am.
Madison out of this league. Tell us why.
Yeah. You know, to me, it's a similar debate with what I just talked about with Youngstown State. Last year, they couldn't defend anybody. James Madison's defense isn't to that level. It's 139 in defensive efficiency. They're an elite offense, but they've had some close calls. We can't act like they've just skated to 8-0. It has not been that easy, and it shouldn't
Right.
be that easy. But they had a close call against Radford. They were trailing for a majority of that game. And Radford's good.
Right.
They have a good trio of guards, Kenyon Giles, Daquan Smith, and Brian Antoine. But they also barely beat Southern Illinois. Again, a good team. But this team is going to have a game where their offense just doesn't show up and their defense is not going to be able to get enough stops against some of the really frisky, tough teams in the Sun Belt. And that's going to be a tough game. I mean, the Sun Belt's not what it was last year, because last year you had Southern Miss, who was really good. You had Louisiana, who was really good. They aren't to that level this year, but there's going to be a area where they slip up. That's why I just don't think they can be an at-large team, because if you lose 2 games in conference play in the Sun Belt, you're probably not making the NCAA tournament as an at-large. At App State, they aren't as good offensively as James Madison, but they are really good overall on both
Still
ends
good
of the floor.
offensively, though.
Yeah, they're still good. They don't have, but the thing about it is they don't have a Terrence Edwards kind of guy, right? They don't have that guy who's going to go drop 30. They have a bunch of guys who can go get 15, but where they're really going to beat you is that front court with Justin Abson and Trayvon Spillers combining for 4 block shots per game. I think they're just a really tough matchup for James Madison. I think this league will be decided by a game or two, and that game or two could be the ultimate result between App State and James Madison.
Yeah, I mean, James Madison has a little bit of a disadvantage at this point. I know that may be crazy to say, just in general, because they are going to be the hunted team. Everyone's going to be up for the
target on their back.
Yeah, they got a huge target, and they've handled it well. I mean, they haven't had the easiest road to all of their victories, as you kind of mentioned, but this team can really score, can really shoot, and can score in bunches. So they will be a tough team to beat in general. But App State, I mean, you got to give them credit on what they are. They're a top 20, I think they're 21 defensive efficiency per KenPom, one of the best defensive teams in the country. So anytime you build your team and your identity around defense, that travels on the road, that travels in the tournament, and gives you a great chance to go dancing, which Coach Kearns knows that formula. I like both of these teams. I'm excited to see the contrast of styles when they go head to head, but the Sun Belt traditionally has been a league that has had a wild card team that is either in the finals or that ends up going, which
every year.
Which is what App State was when they went. So I don't know that there's another team in the Sun Belt that may not. Now, regular season championships are different, but as far as that one ticket, that Cinderella punch to go to the tournament, this team, like you said, this league has traditionally had a wild card team that has jumped in there and taken that punch their ticket. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see once conference play starts how these teams sell in, but I love this James Madison team, and this team has been really impressive. It has everything it does take to win a championship.
Yeah, I think if there's one team like that this year, where they're the App State from a couple of years ago or South Alabama last year, it's probably Old Dominion. I like what they've done so far. Chauncey Jenkins, Wichita State transfer, is an absolute stud. Vashawn Elite, he's been a great freshman for them. RJ Blakeney, Dayton transfer, he's been really reliable. Danny Pounds, another freshman, also pretty solid. Tyrone Williams, former Grayson JUCO college player, went to Oregon. Now he's at Old Dominion. They just have a lot of pieces, so it wouldn't surprise me if Old Dominion's that type of team this year.
I'll ask you this last one as we wrap up the Sun Belt. What do you like about this James Madison team, and what have you been impressed with so far that they've been able to do?
You know, last year they got off to a really hot start, and then they lost to Coppin State. It was like 108 to 100, and you're just like, this team, it was interesting. You knew they were going to have some ups and downs, but the biggest thing that I didn't love about last year's team was their front court play. I mean, Mezia Offerum transferred him from Mount St. Mary's. He was solid, but he wasn't TJ Bickerstaff. And TJ Bickerstaff is athletic. He was really good at Boston College, was really good at Drexel, and now he's brought that over to James Madison, he has the highest usage rate on the team. He gets the ball a ton. He's a great offensive rebounder, good rim protector. He's not a floor stretcher, but he's just such an important player to this team with his rebounding ability and ability to score inside and create extra opportunities. So in the half court, I think he's their most important player. I mean, when you're running in transition, you'll get the ball to Terrence Edwards, but in the half court set, TJ Bickerstaff is probably their guy, and he has been sensational so far. 16 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. He is the one piece on this team that I'm like, they would not be nearly where they are right now if they didn't have TJ Bickerstaff.
Yeah, I love it. We'll close out on the Sun Belt and move to the next topic of games upcoming. We got 3 games we kind of want to highlight. We'll start off with 2 teams that have been in the mid-major poll, Cinderella poll with us. One is not currently in Colgate, but Colgate plays Vermont, and Vermont and Colgate have both had some really tough schedules as it goes. So what do you like about this particular matchup, and who are you picking? The game is at Vermont on Saturday, 2 p.m. Exactly. This Colgate team has lost to Yale, and Yale's a very good team that's also in our top 25 Cinderella poll. Weber State, they got a win against that's also in our top 25, and then they also lost to Harvard, who was last week number 25 in our Cinderella poll. So what do you like about this matchup between Colgate and Vermont?
Vermont's been really exciting so far this year, and I'm really curious to see what their health is looking like because they won at Northeastern without Matt Veretto and Shamir Bogues, 2 starters. If they don't have those 2 in this one, that's going to be a lot tougher, but it is a home game. It's going to be a really low-paced, low-scoring game because both teams are outside the top 300 in offensive offensive tempo. There's going to be a lot of 3-point shots taken, though. And Colgate's offense this year hasn't been as good as it's been in recent years. They're better defensively than offensively this year, which is a bit strange because it's usually the opposite by a lot. They just haven't been super efficient. They're turning the ball over more than they typically do. They were at a 15% clip turnover percentage last year. This year, they're at 256 nationally at a 19.5% clip. They need to start turning the ball over less, and they don't have a guy like Tucker Richardson who's able to calm the offense down. So that's why they need Braden Smith to really step up. They need guys like Ryan Moffitt to make shots and Jeff Woodward to do work inside, Keegan Records to do work inside. They've been really questionable so far. So I'm going to go with Vermont, even though they might be a little shorthanded to win this one. I think they're playing better right now. I trust Matt Langle and staff to get it going there because that's what he's done for the past decade. But Vermont, home game, it's going to be a really tough game, even if they're shorthanded, because TJ Hurley and Brenton Mills and Jace Rockamore, they have guys who can step in and make plays. So I'm going to go with Vermont to win that one.
Yeah, I love this Vermont team. I'm going to take them at home as well, though I do think once Patriot League play gets going, I think Colgate will start to get on a roll again. Unfortunately, they play a really good Vermont team. Again, it's in our
good test, though, either way.
Great test. Great test. It's what you want. It's how you want to know where exactly you stand. And this Vermont team's had a great schedule of tests as well, and they've responded again as a team that's in our top 15 of our Cinderella poll. And now we'll talk about Drake playing Nevada, a big-time matchup. Nevada, not a team that we talk about in the Mountain West because they're not in our Cinderella poll criteria, but just had
they're too big of a conference. If you're in a 4-bid league, we don't talk about it here. Sorry.
Yeah, they're in a high major conference. I want to be honest. The last 2 years, the Mountain West has had 4 bids. Last year,
might be 5 bids this year. Who knows?
Yeah, last year Nevada went. CSU's obviously playing well in that league. New Mexico's playing well, as San Diego State, so many others. So here we go. Talk about Drake just barely snuck away a win, comeback win against St. Louis. They play against Nevada in Henderson, Nevada. So it's a road game Saturday night. What do you think about Tucker DeVries and crew and how they show up in this one?
Interesting in Henderson, Nevada, because that's like right by Vegas, and UNLV fans hate Nevada. So that's going to be really interesting. Maybe it's a bit of a home court advantage for Drake because of how much Nevada's hated in that area. But it's been interesting to see what Drake's done so far because they barely beat a St. Louis team that they should have beat by like 20. St. Louis was without 3 of its starting guards. They've been really bad this year. And obviously St. Louis historically is a really good program. They're just not that right now. But the two issues where Drake is really struggling is 3-point shooting and defense. Last year, they were really good defensively. They were 40th in defensive efficiency. They weren't as great offensively, but they were really good on defense. And obviously, you have Tucker DeVries, so the scoring's going to come. But they need to shoot the ball better, just plain and simple. Without DJ Wilkins and Sardar Calhoun, their shooting just has not been that good. That's where a guy like freshman Kevin Overton and transfer Atten Wright really have to step in. Ethan Roberts, who transferred in from Army to be that shooter, he hasn't played this year. So Drake is missing their guy that probably should have been their number one shooter outside of Tucker DeVries. They need somebody else outside of DeVries to really step up and hit those perimeter jumpers. That's going to be a big one in this game. And I'm curious to see what the matchup is like for Drake against really big point guard Keaton Blackshear, 6'6", athletic, strong. He's going to try to get downhill often. Do they really want to risk getting Tucker DeVries in foul trouble against that guy? Because he's going to draw some fouls. So I would honestly try to mix it up and put someone else on him, even though he's probably going to feast. So I think Nevada's going to win this one, but it's going to be a really tough test for Drake.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Drake play against this caliber of opponent. They definitely don't have the same shooting, and they just haven't been in the flow yet this season. Tucker DeVries has had to take a lot on in order for them to play their best basketball. And big test, I definitely think that Nevada has the edge in that one as well. This is the matchup that I've been waiting to talk about. A top two teams that have both been in the top 5 of the Cinderella Poll. Liberty hosting GCU Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock Central. ESPN has Liberty as an 81% favorite to win. I don't know that that's the case in real life.
Let's pull up the Ken Palm spread. Let's see. What would you guess? What would you guess the spread is according to Ken Palm? So like the real Vegas spread will somewhat mirror what this is. They're usually within a couple points. So what would you say? It's a home game for Liberty.
I'm going to guess that Ken Palm has Liberty edged, but it's probably a 2-point game.
4-point favorite.
I think GCU is going to win. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay, I see. No, I see that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty's, obviously, they've had a week off. I believe they may have played somebody in between there, but they're just coming out of the Field of 68 tip-off.
They played Mississippi Valley State. That pretty much doesn't count.
I thought so, yeah.
That doesn't count, really.
I didn't necessarily count that the same way.
Yeah, no.
But they haven't been tested, is what I should say, since they played their last opponents. So FAU, they lost that game, obviously, and did not play great in that one. And then they lost to Charleston. So they were able to get a win in between, have some time to prepare for GCU. But I just think GCU is going to be riding on a high after that last win at home. They're not going to have the home crowd behind them, but I think with Ty and Grant Foster and the way he's able to produce along with Harrison, there's not a better 2 guards that you can put in the mid-major level on one team. And then the combination of bigs, I think Gabe McLaughlin has played outstanding, leading his team in rebounding. I'm going with GCU. There's going to be a higher scoring game than I think they're projecting. They're both averaging right around 80 points a game. But I'm going with GCU.
Man, this is tough. If this was a home game for Grand Canyon, I would take them because that environment is ridiculous. I think that's alone worth like a 5-point advantage because they were camping out for like 3 days ahead of the game. Like, that's crazy. But
incredible.
Man, what it's going to come down to here, there's 2 things it'll come down to. The rebounding on both sides, because Liberty is one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the country. Just the style they play leads to a lot of rebounds. And Grand Canyon is one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. So one of those is going to have to give. Which one will it be? Will it be the offensive rebounds? Will it be the defensive rebounds? Gabe McLaughlin is just an absolute monster on the glass. So I'm leaning towards Grand Canyon winning the battle of the offensive glass compared to Liberty's defensive rebounding ability. But Liberty, they have to make 3-point shots. That's just a style they play. They're really slow tempo. They're going to wait it out. They're going to take threes. If those shots aren't falling, they're not going to win this game against a team like Grand Canyon. They need Kyler Rode. They need Caden Matheny. They need Brody Peebles, Colin Porter. All those 4 need to be hitting shots in this one. But how will they handle the athleticism and the size of a team like Grand Canyon? Tyon Grant Foster is an NBA level dude. He's always been that, but obviously had the heart issue, had DePaul, so we don't know if he's ever going to play again. He's here, and he's been fantastic, one of the top 10 scorers in the country. Ray Harrison won almost won player of the year in the conference last year, but he's only shooting 20% from deep so far.
He's a
there we go.
To jump
I know there's something in there. Yeah, 20% from 3, though. That's not getting the job done. He's way better than that. Colin Moore, he's really an X factor here because he's their defensive ace. He's a really solid offensive player too. But their lineup combinations are really what intrigues me about this team because they can go a lot of different ways. They can go small with McLaughlin at the 5 and Grant Foster at the 4, or you can go with Sidney Curry, who's just an absolute beast down low at 6'8", 270, athletic and strong at the 5, and beat some of those Liberty big men that aren't as big like Shiloh Robinson and Zach Cleveland. They're both relatively big, but they're not used to handling guys like Sidney Curry. And obviously, Duke Brennan's a really good defender too. I think there's so many different lineup combinations you can go with here if you're GCU. So I'm going to go with them to win this game. I think they're better than Liberty right now. So I'll take the Lopes to win on the road.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and this is not a disrespectful, like, oh, we're all against Liberty. I think Liberty's obviously they've proven that they're a team, and they're a team that, you know, just 2 weeks ago was number 2 in our poll. They were the team of the week after coming off that championship. But this matchup, GCU is not FAU by any means, but they represent a little bit what FAU does well, and they also represent a little bit of what College of Charleston does well. And both those teams had success last against Liberty. So maybe Liberty does go to the well, and they go to the all this time that they've had off, and they've been able to really scout and dig in, and it pays off. They've been able to get in the gym and be in their own environment. But like you said, they're going to have to really make shots. I think the other part for GCU, they feast off of turnovers. They average 8 steals a game along with 5 blocks. So it's not going to be easy for Liberty to score, where I think GCU does have the firepower to play against that pack line defense, to play and make shots. And Ray Harrison, though he's not shooting a great percentage, he is a bucket, and I think he will play well in this game.
Yeah, so I'll take Grand Canyon plus the 4 points. Obviously, if we're going to take them to win, we're taking them plus a point. So that's my recommendation there.
Yeah, we had one more game I'd like to just mention really quickly before we kind of wrap up the end of it. We did have a Cinderella matchup, top 25, where La Tech was able to get a win against Stephen F. Austin. So before we close, I'd love you to mention.
It wasn't pretty.
It was not. It was one of the ugliest games I watched, 56-49, 21% from the field for Stephen F. Austin. But, yeah, I just can't say it enough. Daniel Bacho, you mentioned it early on when we had an early episode. It was my pick for mid-major preseason defensive player of the year. He is an absolute defensive nightmare, can change shots, alter shots, block shots, and can also rebound and run the floor. So the more games he plays, this amount of minutes, he hasn't had this kind of role, I think is only going to get better. And I think he is a person that team is a person that can contend with Liberty in conference, say, and they also play against GCU later in the year. So I wanted to bring up La Tech. Also 35 in the net. So one of the top mid-majors in the net as well.
Yeah, 25th in defensive efficiency. That's one of the best in the country. Like, this Louisiana Tech team has an identity. Their offense isn't great. Isaiah Crawford's going to have to be the guy they rely on. The guard play, I wish they did a little more in the portal to get some more guards in there that can create. But they have some solid guards too. It's not like they don't have them. They just not ones that you can necessarily rely on to make huge shots. And that's nothing against them. Just that's the issue for this team. Talik Chavez can shoot. Sean Newman missed a couple games, but he's all right. Jalen Henderson, he's not a great shooter. So they just don't have enough guards to where they're going to win a lot of games comfortably, but they're going to be really tough defensively. And this team is not going to be an easy team to get by in CUSA.
Yeah, and if you think about those North Texas teams, I mean, they were great defensively. UAB's been great defensively. They've also had some electricity from the guard standpoint, but there hasn't been a player
like Jelly Walker, Tyler Perry over there.
Yeah, there hasn't been a player like Bacho on the defensive end either, though. Since Charles Bassey, there really hasn't been a player with that kind of a defensive presence. So will be exciting to see what they continue to do as they go forward too. Any final thoughts? My final thought would be congratulations to Chicago State getting into a new league. It's very far away, but you're no longer independent, and you have a league starting in July 2024.
Yeah, the NEC, right? NEC. Yep. You're losing some pieces to the MEAC, or not to the MEAC, to the MAC, but you're getting Chicago State. And hey, Gerald Gillen's done a great job there.
Wesley done a great job. Very hard job. Haven't had a league. He's done a great job.
I don't know if I honestly commend him for taking that coaching job, because even though it's a head coaching job, I don't know if everybody would have taken it, even though he's an assistant at Samford,
really
right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he was at Sanford. That's not really a job I probably would have taken because it's a crazy tough task. They didn't have a conference. Like there's so many unknowns there. And if you were bad at Chicago State, you might never get another head coaching job. But now that he's done a really good job at Chicago State, he's probably going to get looked for other jobs. So I applaud him because that's not an easy thing to do.
No, not at all. He's done more or less. They started in the WAC and he got some good wins there, and then they've been independent the last year or so, year or two. So, yeah, final thoughts from Sean as we wrap up.
I would say just make sure you follow us on socials, Field of 68_MM. Follow the main Field of 68 account at the Field of 68. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Burton 13, right?
Yep.
Follow me on Twitter at Sean Paul CBB, and we'll have plenty of mid-major content coming out throughout the season. We're 1 month in, that means we have like 3 more to go. So let's enjoy it while we have it. So let's keep the mid-major talk going.
Absolutely.
All right. And until next time, that'll do it for Sean Paul and Brian Burton on the Field of 68 Mid-Major Show. Have a good week, everybody. And we'll be back this time next week to talk